hard and she'll never know I love her to escape. Bones are thrown, sticks and stones, just to let you validate your message to
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the season finale of Away Days. But we're back, as always, bringing you the preview to every game for Newcastle United, and it's been a fantastic one this season, that is for sure. But as always, I'm joined by the main man, Chris Horde. He's back. He's returned from the abyss, returned from parts unknown. How are you, my man?
Oh, good, mate. Yeah, very good. Thanks. Work's still as busy as ever, but I won't bore you all with that. But no, great to be back. Couldn't miss the last away days of the season. Absolutely not. I've missed being on the last few weeks, so yeah, really excited to be back. And I know we've got a fantastic guest in Adam. So really looking forward to chewing the fat with him over Burnley.
Definitely, 100%, and he's ready to go. I had to stop us in the chat because we were pretty much covering everything.
Yeah, we were going.
The green room before we even got live, and I was like, "Whoa, let's wait for the guys and girls to get involved." But look, just before we get Adam on, we've not had an opportunity just to have a little sort of debrief over Monday's fantastic performance against Arsenal. Look, right, Chris, it was truly a fantastic performance. The boys really turned it on, produced some fantastic football. We had ASM on fire. Not going to bring him up too much, but we talked about him a lot. Don't want to annoy anybody, but we got that all important goal. That was a fantastic goal, the own goal, fantastic move from ASM and Joe Linton, Wilson causing problems, and then of course we had the main man, Bruno Guimaraes, the one on everybody's lips at the moment, scored a fantastic goal to seal the game. From your opinion, Chris, what were your thoughts on the game? How are you feeling about it now?
Do you know what? I was thinking about this actually before we came on, Pete, because I know you're going to ask me. I'm struggling. I've been struggling to remember a more enjoyable game to watch where we just dominated, absolutely dominated, and all we kept hearing pre-match was, "Oh, Newcastle haven't beaten anyone in the top 6 yet under Eddie Howe," and blah blah blah. And then we go and put a performance like that against Arsenal. And again, Pete, I know you spoke about this on the review show, but like, when was the last time we saw a performance from a striker like Callum Wilson there? Like that performance was. He was absolutely unbelievable. Like the proper number 9 striker performance, and it was great to see. And it just kind of whetted the appetite a little bit for next season, didn't it? Because having someone like Callum Wilson, whether he starts up front or whether he's an option off the bench, I mean, having that quality there within the squad is just, it's great, isn't it? And I'm not just going to talk even about Callum Wilson. Obviously, Bruno. I thought Bruno had another great game. Like, fed up for saying it now, he's just class, isn't he? He's just unbelievable. And it was great. As I say, it's great having Callum Wilson back on the pitch. That's obviously a main thing, and it's really good to have him back in and amongst the squads, as well as Kevin Trippier, of course. But yeah, a few good performances. Maxi done well. He tried hard. Put a shift in, I thought. Still hasn't quite come off for him yet, where you're waiting for him to pop. Maybe we'll get that pop at the weekend against Burnley, who knows. I'm sure Adam will probably hope we don't, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But no, I thought it was a really, really good performance, and it left everyone excited, and it was a very fitting performance for the last match of the season at home. So yeah, I was absolutely delighted with it, mate. Absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, I have to agree. And yeah, you've touched on ASM, and I'm sure we'll get onto it in a second. Avon Calling has returned, and look, I have to say, Brew, make sure you got those Stellas in, because you're in for a cracking show tonight. But look, we've had a little bit of review with the main man, Chris Hall. Wasn't around this week, but wanted to get his thoughts on the game. But as always, we say it every week. The away days wouldn't be the away days without the opposition's view. And on behalf of No Nay Never, we've got Adam coming in to talk all things Burnley. So welcome in, Adam. How you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I think you guys are a lot more relaxed than I am right now.
Yeah, you talked about this before we went on air, and both myself and Chris at both different times we said, "Yeah, Adam, how are you? I hope you're all right." And you were like, "No, I'm not all right." Look, we'll start with it. Just tell us how you're feeling, or how the fan base are feeling in the build up to this game. Obviously, you played last night, which we'll talk about shortly. But just how are you, the fan base yourself? What are the emotions going into this game? Because we've felt this twice, so we know how you guys are feeling to a certain extent. But what are your overriding emotions?
I think it's been such a difficult season. Just all the way from the start, we've been struggling. Just couldn't get any sort of momentum at any point, whether it were injuries and then a lot of the COVID postponements. And we just seem to have lost our edge. And up until the sacking of Dyche, which I'm sure we'll come on to at some point, I don't think any Burnley fan could have really argued that us, Watford and Norwich were the worst three teams in the division. And obviously, when we sacked Dyche, I thought that's it. We'll just plummet like other teams that have done similar at similar stages of the season have done in the past. You don't normally sack your manager without the plan to bring in a new manager with only 7 or 8 games left and manage to turn it around. So it's been a real positive few weeks, and I think we're a realistic fan base. Every year we go into it, we know it might be a struggle, and it is probably going to be a struggle. But we stay behind the boys. No one were calling for Dyche's head before he went, and I think we're all really motivated that we're actually giving ourselves a chance going into this last game. And I think the point last night were absolutely massive. So it is actually in our own hands going into the weekend.
Yeah, and that's it. And you've alluded to the fact that it is in your own hands. A win or a point will in my opinion, we'll see you guys safe. Chris might have different opinions on this, but I think Leeds going to Brentford, I think, will be a step too far for them. With all their injuries, with the fact that Brentford were on fantastic form going into this season. Chris, would you agree with that? Would you agree maybe a point would be enough for Burnley at this stage?
Yeah, do you know what? We were discussing it pre-show, weren't we, Adam? And we were saying, again, correct me if I'm wrong when I say this, but I think Burnley have just got to make sure that Leeds don't better their result. And then I think you'll be okay on that sense. And really, I look at that Brentford game that Leeds have got, and obviously we all saw what Brentford did to Everton. I know Everton aren't exactly in the best run of form, and they're probably not the strongest team in the league, but it's no mean feat, to come back and win a match at Goodison Park. It's not easy to do. So I think Brentford can cause Leeds a hell of a lot of problems, and not forgetting as well, Leeds are missing some key players, like Stuart Dallas is out for the season. Who are the other suspension? Luke Ayling suspended. I think Bamford's injured. They've got a number of injuries. I know obviously they've got the likes of Rafinha there.
Dan James suspended as well.
Dan James, that's it. Yeah, Dan James suspended. Yeah, absolutely right. So I think it's a big ask for Leeds, if I'm honest. But obviously, as a fan, Adam, I know it's difficult to kind of see past the blinkers, isn't it? Because you're panicking and hoping that Burnley have enough. And I hope you'd have enough, mate, because you know, you are you have done fantastically well in the Premier League in recent years. And as much as I was sad to see Sean Dyche go, part of me thinks, you know, the caretaker manager that's come in, he's done a good job, and he's turned the players around, hasn't he? And you've started picking up results and points. Pete, you may have wanted to ask Adam this, and I apologise if I'm jumping the gun, but I'm interested, Adam. What was your initial feeling when, and the feeling of the fan base when Sean Dyche got sacked? Because I know the rest of the country were all a bit like, wow, what's happened there? And I know, like I say, you were talking about it pre-show, in that it's odd that you kind of make that decision and then not have someone ready to stand in, because it felt like, you know, the caretaker manager that's come in, albeit he's done a great job, he it didn't feel like a planned decision. It was almost a case of, like, he's gone, oh, okay, you can have the job. I mean, what was the thought of yourself and the fans?
It was utter shock when it actually happened. I was at work, and that was basically the end of my work day. Couldn't get anything else done. Yeah, I didn't see it coming. And to be honest, the chairman, since he's come in since the takeover 18 months or so ago, has always really backed Dyche. Like, publicly said how much of a fan he is from the off, and give him a 4-year contract at the beginning of this season. Obviously, he's built the club up from a long way since he came in, and he's put 100% faith in him. So.
Have we lost Adam?
I think we've lost Adam slightly.
Would we want to try and bring us back, even if we were relegated? There's, like, he's got us promoted from the Championship twice. So.
I think we've lost Adam, and he was mid-flow in his talk of Sean Dyche. But you know what? Like, there's a part of me that's relieved it's not me, because
it's normally me or you, isn't it?
Yeah,
hey, we're only 12 minutes in, Pete. It could start.
I know it's madness, but look, we'll get Adam back in a second. But like, just as you know, we were touching on that. So, what are your thoughts on that? What were your initial thoughts when Dyche got sacked? And you know, what have you made of the job that the man that's come in, Mike Jackson's, done?
I think he's done fantastically well, but I've got to be honest, Pete. Like, as soon as they sacked Dyche, my feeling was they're done. I thought, you know, he's probably the best person, or the best equipped person to, you know, turn things around. And we've seen Sean Dyche do that over the years. I take Adam's point, you know, they've never been this perilously close to relegation, I don't think, under Dyche. And they were on an absolutely horrendous run, and you know, the owners have taken the decision, you know, to let him go, kind of thing. But it still really surprised me, because I thought the timing of it was so odd. But then in his first 4 games, he picked up 10 points out of 12. So he kind of proved the doubters wrong. But yeah, I was particularly surprised, because I thought it was a bit of a suicide mission, for want of a better phrase.
Internet's
I thought.
knackered.
Oh, don't worry, mate.
he's Adam's going off to sort his internet, but yeah, you know, you're right. It was a surprise. I think Burnley, and guys and girls in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Burnley went 3. Did you just say that it went 3 on the back?
10 points out of 12.
Yeah,
10 points out of 12. Yeah,
unbelievable. I don't think anybody in this second half of the season, with how Burnley had performed, thought that they were going to perform like that. And it really did give us that huge hope. Certainly when Everton were in and around the mix. We won't talk about that too much. But when they were in there, it gave us huge hope that we thought, actually, they could stay in the league, and like Everton could be the ones to go down. But didn't quite go that way. But I think we've got Adam back. You might want to... he's back in. Obviously, we carried on...
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you. We got Chris's thoughts on the job that that Mike Jackson's done. But I know you were kind of halfway through, so I don't know if you want to just continue or finish off that point around Dyche and Mike Jackson and what that's been like in that transition. Oh, we can hear you.
We've got you back, Adam.
I think he's struggling at the moment, so we'll let Adam will let us know in the chat when he's up and running. But look, we're in that position now where it's kind of obviously a difficult situation, but we really do want to get Adam's thoughts on that. So we'll continue that. But look, I think there's already a few questions come in, and the one thing we'll say with away days is that if you've got a question, get it in, whether it's to me, Chris, both of us, Adam, from a Burnley perspective, get those questions in. We're already starring questions at the moment, and there's some good ones as well. So yeah, feel free to do that, because there'll always be a question section at some point in the show where we get our questions in, and we let you guys know. So don't worry if you don't see it pop up on the screen where Ugi's question is right now or comment is right now. That means that we've starred it and we'll come back to it at a later date. Is there anything in there that we can kick straight off with?
Yeah.
Your question.
Yeah. Do you know what? Our very good friends, Daz, has come in with a question, Pete, and I think Daz wanted us to talk about this because it's a very valid point, and obviously we'll have to ask Adam when he's back up and running, because obviously, you know, Adam will, I'm sure, have an opinion on this, Pete. But Daz asks, Burnley and Leeds have written to the Premier League to question whether Everton had broken financial fair play rules after they recorded losses of 371.8 million over the past 3 years. What are your thoughts, lads? It's tasty, that, isn't it?
That's a class question, Daz. Love it, absolutely love it. And yeah, it's been breaking news today. Clearly, Burnley and Leeds are looking ahead with the potential. You know, if one of them get relegated, that they're both going to be going in with this. You know, my initial thoughts are, and look, I think back to the show and the conversations that we've had with Mitch. And Mitch has kind of alluded to this in previous conversations, in previous shows that we've had. And he was of the mindset that this was always going to happen at some point. Because, look, if you are recording losses, just as Daz said on there, 371 million. 371 million. If you're recording losses of that amount of money, that vast amount of money, you are in a position to get fined. You are in a position to ensure that you are held to account for kind of losing that amount of money within your club. And the fact that it seems like it's been brushed under the carpet. There was an article out, I think, from the Mirror a while ago, a month or two ago, saying that they're working together to deal with it. I guarantee you, if that was Newcastle United, they would have thrown the book at us. If that was any other club that would have thrown the book at us, for some reason, there seems to be this obsession with protecting Everton. And it starts with Sky. And it starts with Jamie Carragher. Jamie Carragher all of a sudden has become an Everton fan. All of a sudden, we know he was an Everton fan growing up, but all of a sudden he's gone back to supporting Everton. And all he does is talk about Everton and how great they are, whereas for years on end, he was talking about how rubbish they were and how he wasn't associated with Everton and he would do everything he possibly could to support Liverpool. Now he's changed that mindset, and I think that's holding ground now with a lot of people, including the Premier League. And I think they're trying to protect Everton, because any other club would have got a fine, maybe even loss of points. And at this stage, losing points would have relegated them. I don't know what you think about it, Chris.
No, I agree, mate. I mean, funnily enough, I was watching the Everton match last night on a stream. And the commentators in the studio, I forget who the third one was, but it was Andy Gray and Richard Keys. And honestly, mate, you've never seen anything like it. Like I thought the Sky pundits were biased, but like honestly, Andy Gray, no wonder he hasn't got his job anymore on Sky Sports. Like literally, he obviously he professes to be a blue, but like you've never seen anything like it. Like the way he was talking about Everton, and don't get me wrong, it's great as a fan talking about your club. I understand that, and there will be some bias, and Shearer's a bit like that on Match of the Day. There's little slight undertones and stuff like that, but he was literally just going on and on and on and on about Everton and saying, "Oh, look how fantastic this is, and oh, that was great, and look how wonderful that is." And you're thinking, really, is that good punditry, or are you just being a fan like we all are, just on the telly talking about your club? It's honestly, I found it uncomfortable watching. I just thought, how are you on like a mainstream channel? Like how does that even happen? Because it was so biased towards Everton, and I thought, any Crystal Palace fans around the world would have been watching it, just going, "Really? Is that really what we're tuning into here?" But yeah, I think the points deduction thing's really interesting, because the way I look at it, do I agree? Do I agree with the fact that Everton have recorded all those losses and they go unpunished? No. I do think there should be some punishment, don't get me wrong. But my hesitancy is because I don't believe there will be any punishments. And that's not to say that's the right decision. It's just that I don't think it will happen. To be fair, it does make me laugh as well. Obviously, it's natural and I understand it. But it does make me laugh that like the two clubs you've complained, the Leeds and Burnley, because obviously it's going to affect Leeds or Burnley, and I get that. But really, it would be good, wouldn't it, if there was a more united front where maybe Watford do it and Norwich do it. I know that they're well away, but even mid-table sides, like Wolves or ourselves or Palace or Villa, why would they not complain as well? Because theoretically speaking, they might have finished higher up the league if Everton hadn't have beaten them. Do you know what I mean? So it's another way of looking at it like that as well. But yeah, it's one of those, Pete. Unfortunately, as soon as I seen it, I just thought, yeah, it's not going to happen, because I don't believe anything will come of it, if I'm honest. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. Maybe they'll make an example out of Everton, but I highly doubt it.
Nah, and I think you made some really valid points there. And I think that segues us nicely into, and I'm hoping he's up and running. Adam, I don't know if you've seen the question on the screen from Daz, one of the loaded lads. Whether you've been in a position to read the question. Can you hear us, Adam?
Oh, hang on. Sorry. Oh yeah, he's saying he's still a bit hit and miss. He's still struggling a bit.
Yeah, no, he's sending on the chat. He's apologised. Can you hear us, Adam? Nah, I don't think he can hear us at this moment in time. If he continues to work on it, we'll try and get him back on. But you've made a really good point. I don't think Everton will be punished. I think if they were going to be punished, it would have happened when it was first reported that it was going to happen, and they would be in a position to then try and work off those points and work it back. Now at this stage, with it being so close to the end of the season, where every point matters, I just think it's going to be difficult in this situation for Everton to be given the fine. And ultimately, when you've got the Premier League that want a team to stay in the league so much, and they're going to do everything they can to keep them in the league, I think that's going to make it incredibly difficult for that to happen. But look, do you think there's a legal case there? I certainly do. I think.
Definitely. I mean, they could definitely. I could see. I could see them maybe suing for damages or something like that. And I don't believe that that's beyond the realms. But I think any fans hoping for the points deduction. I think even if there was a points deduction, I think it would happen next season. I don't think it would come in this season. Unfortunately for Burnley and Leeds fans. I don't think they do that. I mean, just imagine, Pete. Just imagine the uproar, especially after the scenes last night. I mean, imagine Everton fans next week getting notified that, oh, by the way, we're taking 5 points off you, which will mean you're going down. There'd just be uproar, wouldn't there? Absolute uproar.
Yeah. Without a doubt, and this is where people feel like it's a little bit unfair Adam, have we got you back? Can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear now.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No,
don't worry, mate,
no
don't worry.
problem. Trust me, Adam. Me and Chris have had our fair share of internet problems over the course of this season with many a show. So please do not worry about that at all. But we've just been talking about the question that's on the screen, and we wanted to get your thoughts on it. Obviously, it was breaking news today. Daz, one of the loaded members of the channel, has put this question on about Burnley Leeds right into the Premier League to question Everton's broken financial fair play rules, the recorded loss of 371.8 million over the past 3 years. What are your thoughts about this in particular? Do you think it's going to amount to anything? Do you think, what are your initial thoughts on that?
I think it's right to question it, but it comes across slightly desperate with the current position we're in, and with things like this, it seems to be like the season after that teams get punished, and maybe they'll start next season with a points deduction rather than. I can't see them doing anything this season based on that. But there's the whole COVID situation as well. I think there's things written in the rules that say that if the losses are caused by COVID, then obviously they're not gonna be punished for them. And I think Everton have documented that 170 million are because of COVID impact. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But it's a fair enough question to ask. But it's not anything that I'm pinning any hopes on anything for our current plight.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And you know what? A lot of the points that you've just made there, Chris is in full agreement, and Chris also mentioned things of a similar nature. And look, you're right. Particularly with it affecting you in the here and now. Chris also mentioned as well, as you did, Adam, that if there's anything going to be happening with regards to them and financial fair play, it will go into next season. And I think that's a great point. It's a great point to make, which is a shame, really, because I think and I think one or two of the fans in the chat tonight have alluded to the fact that if it was Newcastle United, if it was potentially a Burnley, I think it would have been treated differently, and that's just my personal opinion. But it's certainly one to watch. It's certainly one to watch. 370 odd million pounds losses, and still being okay to be in the Premier League. I tell you, there'll be a number of teams that will be holding that up against the Premier League in the years to come to say, hold on a second, they were allowed to make this amount of losses and it was all okay. And you've made a point, Adam, about the COVID situation, 170 million losses of COVID. Well, funnily enough, this week we got a little snippet of our financials over the last year, and it looked at about, I think it was about 30-40 million pound in losses in comparison to Everton's 170 million. So that's a mismatch in itself. That doesn't make sense in itself. So there'll be questions there, and you can bet that Burnley and Leeds are going to be looking at other teams' financial situations and going, okay, do they match up to maybe a Newcastle in terms of losses, or do they match up to Everton's? And if it doesn't match up to Everton's, that's where the question might be pointed to them, and to say, well, why are your losses so much bigger than any other team? And that's where maybe the Premier League might not have a question to answer. But as you've said, it's not going to be turned around and answered in the next few days. And obviously there's a big few days ahead, which I'm sure we're going to get into. That's for sure. So we've talked about Dyche. We've talked about the Mike Jackson situation. I'm sure we're going to come back to that Mike Jackson situation. James Moore, come on, Jimmy. Andy Gray, no chance.
He's laughing. Do you remember, Pete? Because obviously I was talking about Andy Gray then. And do you remember what did he call him when we were on NUFC Matters? He called him something. What was it? And we were all pissing ourselves.
Blue something. Blue.
A blue turd.
Yeah, that was it. A blue turd. We referred to him as a blue turd. Absolutely brilliant, Jimmy. You're a legend. I hope you're well, mate. I hope you're on the mend and out and about as well. Kamal seems to find that funny as well. But look, we'll move on. An interesting topic that I want to get your opinion on. Was maybe a little bit sore in January, but let's see how you're feeling now. And it's obviously the whole situation around a certain Mr. Chris Wood. Obviously, in January, Chris Wood made the move to Newcastle United. Newcastle United exercised the £25 million release clause in his contract. Burnley didn't think it was going to happen, so we hear it happened. He then made the move. Dyche wasn't really too complimentary about the situation. But then, obviously, you've gone and replaced him, and you brought Weghorst in, who's come in a similar position and obviously play regularly for Burnley from that point of view. I just want to get your opinions, Adam. Firstly, on the whole Chris Wood situation, where do you stand on that? Are you still angry with him? Is he going to get booed on Sunday? Are you still really disappointed that he made the move, or is that all kind of water under the bridge now? And are you very happy with Weghorst?
He'll definitely get booed. He'll get some stick on. If I know he wasn't in the squad last week, was he? But if he plays a part, he'll get some grief on Sunday. I think looking at it I think it was just a big blow to us as a side. We were already struggling. He wasn't firing this season. I think he'd only scored 2 or 3 goals for us, but he'd scored. He'd be a 10-goal a season striker. I think he scored 10, 12, 14, 10 in his last 4 full seasons for us. That's invaluable for a team like us. We don't create that much. So when the ball did drop to him in the box, having someone who could put the ball in the net were invaluable. We went into January thinking that we needed to strengthen. We were struggling around the market, and then suddenly we're losing our best striker, our top scoring Premier League striker of all time. It were a really big blow. I can understand why Newcastle did it. They obviously needed someone with Wilson out, and Chris Wood's he had pedigree, and it weakened at the time what looked to be a relegation rival. Obviously, it's turned out you absolutely steamrolled up the league. I think no one could have predicted that you'd done as well as you did. It seemed to make sense from Newcastle's point of view. From Chris Wood's point of view, of course, it makes sense. 29, 30-year-old, gonna get a big wage rise, big last contract, and the potential to play at a higher level if the rescue job was complete. So, as much as I understood it, it was a big blow at the time, and a lot of Burnley fans did feel bitter that he had jumped ship. But to me, it made sense from his point of view and from Newcastle's point of view. But it killed us, and we ended up making a 10 million profit in January when everyone was saying we needed to go out there and get an attacking midfielder and a striker anyway before we'd lost Wood. I think initially everyone were happy with Weghorst. I think he's a better all-round footballer than Wood. But you can't replace those goals. At the end of the day, we need the goals, and Chris Wood has always done that for us. So I know he's carried on not really fine with his shooting boots on for you guys too. But yeah, it felt like a big moment in the season, and until we have recently turned it around, it looked like it was going to be the killer blow.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. It's a difficult one. I mean, look, there was talk that Newcastle did it on purpose in order to weaken the Burnley team, in order to make sure that you guys were still down there. I don't know if you've already alluded to it, but do you think that that's the case? Do you think that we did it on purpose, or do you just think that it was a case of we wanted a striker and that's who was around at this point in time?
Well, yeah, January is a tough market, isn't it? I'm sure he wasn't the first name on your January shopping list as a fan or like the recruitment department. You're going to be linked with all sorts of players with the money that you've got. But as soon as none of the Burnley fans knew there were this £25 million release clause, and a lot of my friends who aren't Burnley fans were messaging me saying, £25 million for Chris Wood. You have had their pants down. How the hell have you managed to get that much money for him? on the face of it, it does seem like a good deal money-wise for Burnley, but it's what he's worth to us, and how are we going to get a replacement at that short notice in January? So I don't know if there anything cynical in it, but it made sense to me that that Newcastle could come and get him in, and he were probably somebody who fit the mould of the striker that you needed with the injuries you had at the time.
There's a fair assessment, and it's true. And Chris, I get your thoughts on this. You know, Chris Wood, as Adam's alluded to, is a big part of Burnley. It was a big part of the way in which they played.
Yeah.
So it wasn't necessarily just being able to just like for like replace him. He was a huge miss.
Yeah, do you know what? I could probably talk about this topic for about half an hour, so I'm going to try and condense it as much as I can. But I totally agree with what Adam said there. Like, you know, he was an integral part of Burnley's team, and I like Adam. I think it was probably a hand in hand thing. We needed a striker. There was a Premier League proven striker out there, albeit it was a large amount to pay, but equally, looking at it, one, it weakens Burnley, which obviously helps us, and two, you're signing a £25 million striker who, realistically, let's be honest, if we were to sell him in the summer, I think we'd easily get 10 million for him. So technically, we've lost 15 million, but it's either lose 15 million and get 140, 150 million for staying in the league, or just don't sign a striker, and then we may not be in the position that we're in now. Because I think a lot of Newcastle fans, and I'm sure you'll back me up with this, Pete, a lot of Newcastle fans have been very underwhelmed, it's fair to say, Adam, with Chris Wood. And don't get me wrong, I'm not for 1 minute suggesting, you know, he's a top striker, because I don't believe he is. But I do think he has played his part in keeping us up this season. And I do think that without him, you know, we would have struggled, because when Callum Wilson's injured, we had Dwight Gale. That was our backup, and sometimes we play St. Maximin through the middle. And against certain teams, you just can't do that. So I think Chris Wood's contribution has been undersold a little bit for what he's done this season. And I think that, you know, he if he doesn't leave in the summer, he will definitely leave in January, next January, I believe. But I personally think he's come in. He's done a good job. He's an honest player, which I'm sure you'll be fully aware of. He's someone who puts a shift in. Obviously, there is slight quality concerns in that, you know, he's not that 20, 25 goal a season striker, but he does work hard for the team, and he does have an impact. It's a funny one, isn't it? But I want to ask you this as well, Adam. Well, I know you've kind of already answered that at the bottom, but I'd be interested to know, and obviously Jimmy, one of our regulars, has asked the question as well. Ask Adam if they take Chris Wood back. So let's say, for example, Adam, whether you stay up or go down, if there was an opportunity for Burnley to go and get Chris Wood back for, say, 10 million, would that be something you'd be open to, especially if it was in the Championship? Would that be a deal that you think would be a good one, or do you think he'd actually come back?
In the Championship, absolute no-brainer. Definitely take him in the Championship. In the Premier League, I think we're going to have a big change on this summer anyway. And as you alluded to, he was a hard-working striker who ran the channels for us, but it probably forced us to play the percentage ball quite a lot of the time into the channels. He'd chase it, win a throw-in, win a corner, win the ball back high up the pitch. And I'd like to think the next move that we make, we're probably going to go ahead and try something a bit different. And also I'd probably like to see our investment in probably younger players that we can try and develop and bring through and make money on down the line. And I think the new owners have kind of done that and made that shift with the transfers we've brought in, have been younger players who would probably be able to look to develop and move on if needed, like Connor Roberts, Nathan Collins, Maxwell Cornet. They've all got resale value. Chris Wood did a lot for Burnley, but I don't think there'd be any way he'd come back. Especially, he made a few comments when he was leaving about being in his comfort zone, and it might have, he's upset probably the fans, and it might have been towards Dyche, some of those derogatory comments. But it's a difficult one because I can't see it ever happening. I don't think his ego would let him come back to us anyway. I think he'd probably find he's not going to be short on takers top end Championship, lower end Premier League anyway, especially if it is 10 million. I think anyone would take a gamble on that.
Yeah, I agree.
He's still a good age, like it's that you both alluded to. 30 years old, he's still a good age, still able to play in a certain way. And there was an interesting point made by Jordan Toon for Life, and you might have already alluded to this, Chris, in the chat. But Adam, Jordan Toon for Life said, Adam, that's because Burnley Wood played in a front two, whereas at Newcastle he's up front by himself. Totally different, and I feel a bit sorry for the lad, especially as Wilson is back now. I think it was alluding to a previous conversation when you were chatting just a little bit earlier about Wood, but it is right. In he did play up front with Ashley Barnes, and they were a real kind of handful together. But now having to play up front on his own, he's having to do kind of the work of two men, and I think it's taxing on him physically. I think he's working his socks off for the club and for the team and for the players. But I think what that then tends to do is then ensures that when we need him in the right places at certain times, he's not, because of the other work that he's having to do on the pitch. Whereas they would alternate at times with Ashley Barnes doing some of the dropping deep, doing the hard work and occupying the centre backs, Woodward playing in behind and vice versa. So I think Jordy Toon Flyers made a good point there with regards to how it maybe works. But I also agree with your point that I think he probably wouldn't come back for that reason, that he's already left and maybe the feel of Burnley. But I've always said, and I've said it on a number of loaded shows now, that I think, if there was a deal to be done in the summer to move him on, I think Newcastle would consider doing it, because I think the way in which we're looking and the direction that we're moving, and Jordan Toon Flyers alluded to the fact that Wilson is now back, means that he's not going to be first choice, and we're already looking for a potential first choice striker in the summer, which then puts him back to third choice. Whether he's happy to do that for a season or not, I don't know. But it's definitely an interesting conversation, and one that will continue into the season, into the close season. That's for sure. Just holding on to that thought of transfers and players moving in, players moving out, it brings me to one of your current players who's been heavily linked to us as well. And as you guys refer to him as Tarky, we know him as James Tarkowski. What is the situation that you see it, Adam, with James Tarkowski? Because we hear that he's going to leave on a free, that he's done, that he's going to move. We had the main man, Sean Casey, on our show Wednesday, which the show blew up. It's a fantastic show. If you haven't watched it, head to YouTube, subscribe to Loaded, and click the link on there. Nearly 7,000 views already in a few short days. So, Sean Casey touched about that in his mindset, it was a done deal, and that it's been wrapped up. And actually, I've got to throw this in because it's just coming whilst we've been on the show, that actually, thisisfootball.com have actually wrote an article about the fact that Sean Casey was on our show. They've name-checked Loaded HQ as the fact that that's where the sources come from. It's a fantastic article. Sean's put it out there today and tweeted on it. So have a look at the article. It actually name-checks Loaded HQ, which we really, really appreciate. The person that wrote the article, and I'll just find it, sorry to kind of jump in here, is Aaron Hinderoff. And that was put out earlier on today. So lots of people taking an interest of Sean Casey and on our show. But going back to the original point, James Tarkowski, what is the situation with him and Burnley?
I think he's made it quite clear for the last couple of years that he won't be signing a new contract. It was 2 summers ago all the speculation started, and Leicester apparently put a bid in that we turned down, wanted a lot more money. I think he dug his heels in a bit, but at the end of the day, we just said no. He's fair play to him. He's carried on, and I think it was a similar situation last summer. West Ham were interested. We've said no. But he's been an absolute man mountain for us. He's best centre back I've ever seen play for Burnley. his commitment to the cause especially the last few months. Can't fault him. He's been honest throughout, and I don't think anyone will hold it against him should he get his big move in the summer. Be really, really sad to lose him. I can't see how we replace him. I've already mentioned Nathan Collins looks a very good prospect, but he's going to be a massive loss for us. But I think all Burnley fans will accept he's going, whether it's Newcastle, who look the favourites at the moment, or West Ham or Leicester. I think it's going to be a team like that. But the Newcastle move makes the most sense to me. But I'm going to worry about that after Sunday, I think.
Yeah.
But you're getting one hell of a centre half if you do get him. I think he should have played. Well, maybe not played more for England, but I think he should have been in more England squads than he has been. And probably being at Burnley, mate, has probably held him back slightly on that regard.
Well, I'll be honest with you. If he does come to Newcastle, that might not help him either, because we don't get England players. We don't get players from our squad called up for England either. Trippier hasn't been called up since, although he's been injured. We're hoping that it would be nice to see him in the England squad over the summer, because he's still one of the best right backs in this country. But just on the Tarkowski thing before we move on, you've talked about him being the best centre back you've seen play for Burnley. You've referred to him as a man mountain. What are the major characteristics of James Tarkowski? What are the things that set him apart from any other centre back that you've had at the club, and what's made him so good for you over the last few years?
I think it's a number of things. He just loves defending. He's everywhere. Last ditch tackles, really, really composed on and off the ball. Never loses his head. Leads, like you can see, he's a leader on the pitch. And he has got that bit of quality about him as well. He can bring the ball out. He probably thinks he's even better than he is, to be honest. But he's not scared to bring the ball out and play crossfield ball 50 yards. And it's quite easy for us as a team to just carry on playing the safe ball. But he's an all-round top defender. Everything you'd want in a centre-back. And like I said, his character these last few months, people questioned him at the start of the season. He had a couple of errors, but we wouldn't be anywhere near where we are now without James Tarkowski. Played a massive role in the year we qualified. Well, finished 7th, and we're in the qualifying stage of the Europa League. I think that's when the interest started to come in him. But he's just so consistent. Like I mentioned, a couple of mistakes this season. I think that's when people start questioning his commitment, because he just doesn't make mistakes. But he's straight back on it now. I don't know how else. There's too many things to say about him. He's done so much for Burnley Football Club, and him and Ben Mee have just been the rock and the core of our side for this last 6 years in the Premier League, and obviously we've built from that base, and we won't still be in the Premier League without them two at the back.
Very interesting, and obviously, Yano's in the chat. Well, welcome to the show, Yano. I think he's mentioned in there he doesn't feel that Tarkowski is much of an upgrade on Lascelles. Need a ball-playing centre back. Is that maybe a sticking point? You might have already alluded to it. Is that maybe a sticking point of his defensive ability? He's not great on the ball, or would you say he is comfortable on the ball? What are your thoughts on that? Yeah, no,
I think he is comfortable on the ball. He's definitely our most comfortable defender on the ball, and he will try things. I shouldn't judge Lascelles, because obviously he's been your captain for a while, and you'll have watched him play a lot more than what I do. But I've got a similar opinion that Jano's probably got of Tarkowski to Lascelles, that he's just out and out defender, not got much quality beyond that. But Tarkowski's got, in my opinion, he's got a lot in his locker, and I think he'd be a really big upgrade on Lascelles, but I'd probably be a bit harsh on Lascelles by saying that. But no, he can play with the ball. So, and he'll probably do better in a team that's going to let him, because I think Dyche probably had the reins on him a bit more than most managers would.
Yeah, no, don't feel funny about that, Adam. To be fair, I think it's fair to say, Pete, isn't it? We're not Jamal Lascelles' biggest fans. I think it's fair to say that, and that's not to take away what he's done for the club in the time he's been here. And I don't want to slag him off as such, but we're all hoping that Jamal Lascelles isn't anywhere near our starting 11 next season, if I'm honest. To keep him in the squad, I think we appreciate that maybe in the next 12, 18 months, he won't be necessarily forced out the door, but I don't think he's going to be anywhere near the starting 11. I think that's fair to say that, isn't it, Pete?
Yeah, look, I mentioned it a while ago. I know you've touched on it as well. I know one or two of us in the loaded team have mentioned it too. That we think that potentially he's got another year, but within that year he might not play a lot of football. If he gets an offer, for example, if Nottingham Forest get promoted this season, the club that we brought him from, his sort of hometown club, I think there's potentially a deal to be done there. And to be fair, a lot Nottingham Forest fans are already talking about potentially bringing him back in their own chats. I've got good friends that I grew up with that are Nottingham Forest fans, and they've said there's a lot of talk about Lascelles already potentially coming back if they get promoted. So that could be a deal that's done in the summer, which then makes the Tarkowski deal even more viable, because he would be a right-sided centre-back replacement for Lascelles. And then you've got Shaw and Tarkowski as the right-hand side, Dan Burn as the left-hand side, and that's where we'd be looking for that sort of improvement to get another left-sided centre-back in. So it would make perfect sense. But it's like I say, it's definitely one to watch. Obviously, we touched on it before. Sean Casey, a fantastic show. If you haven't watched it, check it out. He is, he was adamant that the deal is pretty much done. They're just waiting for the right time to kind of announce it. There has been talk that Tarkowski and his agent have been up in Newcastle for talks over the last few weeks. We don't know that for sure. I'm sure it'll all come out in the wash as we get into the summer business. And look, it's going to be a very, very busy summer. That is for sure. Look, we'll move on to this point at this point to a couple of questions, if there are, because I know there's been lots of questions, Chris, come in for Adam. And Adam, this is a side section of the show because we have a fantastic following. We've got 100 in the chat at the moment that love to engage and to discuss with opposition fans, and they've got their opinions. So, Chris, is there a couple of questions we can throw at Adam before we then talk sort of lineups and potential tactical situations?
Absolutely, mate. So Lisa Mole, a good friend of the channel, has asked a question for Adam. Who is on your wish list for your new manager? Or do you think you'll stick with Jackson?
I don't think we'll stick with Jackson. No matter what happens, he's come in and obviously done a good job. I think the players, the leadership team within the players have also stepped up and really helped him with that as well. I think it's a big joint effort, and Jackson's kind of said that himself. He's only had one manager, two managerials, and he left Tranmere after a few months. So I can't imagine that he'll end up with a job as well as he's done. I think it completely depends what league we're in. Where the favourite currently is Vincent Kompany, but obviously I think that depends on us staying in the Premier League. Obviously with his background, obviously grounding now at Anderlecht as well. I think that'd be a really, really interesting move if we were going to do that. We're going to have an upheaval in the summer anyway. Why not give him a chance? He's obviously a really intelligent guy. But I think if we were to go down, I'd still wouldn't mind us going abroad. There's been a few names mentioned over here, like the Chris Wilder. If we went down, Wilder, why would he leave Middlesbrough to come to another relegated team when he's had a pretty successful year there building, and he's always had projects. I think he's been at Northampton 5 years, Sheffield United 5 years. Why would he just jump ship out of Middlesbrough? Wayne Rooney were another one. Again, that might be an interesting one, but probably not. I'd want someone with a bit more experience. And then another couple of ex-Burnley players have been linked. Joey Barton, obviously ex-Newcastle as well. Just got Bristol Rovers promoted.
Yeah,
and Michael Duff, who's doing a really good job at Cheltenham. And I wouldn't rule those two out maybe in the future, the next time it comes around. But I think right now, it probably wouldn't be what we need. So ideally, it's going to be someone like Vincent Kompany, because we've stayed in the Premier League, and to take us on a bit of a different path than we've been on these last few years.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's a good shout, mate.
Just
Jacob.
One second.
Oh, sorry, Pete. Go on, mate.
I was going to say, Jordy Tim for Life said, and I don't know if you touched about this already,
Jesus.
keep away from Steve Bruce. Whatever you do, Adam, keep away from Steve Bruce. He's already running an absolute mess at West Brom. They were in the playoff places, comfortable in the playoff places, and ended up mid-table after he took over the club. So
stand Andy Carroll, didn't he?
Yeah, and then released him and dropped him before the last game of the season after we pulled him in. And surprisingly for us, and obviously for us Newcastle fans, he actually now wants Elliot Anderson. I cannot think of a worse logo ever for our young, up-and-coming talent at 19 years old to go to someone like Steve Bruce, who doesn't even know any tactical, has zero tactical ability for his years in football. Anyway. Side point just added in there. Apologies, Chris.
No, mate. It was an important point made, Pete. I've got to say, it was a very important point made. So Jacob Davy Day, that's a cool name, that. Jacob Davy Day asks, question for Adam. If he plays, do you think it's destiny for Chris Wood to score?
Well, I actually know Jacob Davy Day, and we're in a WhatsApp group with him.
No way.
As soon as you signed Chris Wood, I've just put in our group chat. It's just going to. I was assuming you guys were going to be down there with us. Obviously, we knew we were playing you last game of the season at that point as well. It's just going to be destiny that Trippier crosses a ball, Chris Wood heads it in last minute to relegate us, and Eddie Howe does a knee slide in front of us all. Although it probably wouldn't be wise given his history with his knee troubles, to be honest with Eddie Howe. But they've been talking to. I think they've been winding me up. Jake's a Middlesbrough fan. He's been winding me up today. Like him and another lad in our chat, Dan's been sending requests to bets to Sky. Chris Wood to score, Newcastle to win, Leeds to win, Burnley to go, all sorts of rubbish. So I hope not, but I'm not going to say I haven't thought about it quite a lot. It's kept me awake a bit.
Yeah, if it makes you feel any better, mate, I don't think he'll play, if I'm honest. I don't know about you, Pete. I just don't think. I mean, obviously he missed the last game. He may be on the bench. Don't get me wrong. If he's been declared fit, but I can't see him starting over Wilson.
It's just one of them things that you can't help but think when you're a fan, and you just think that is the worst case scenario. Trippier, who I absolutely love, to Chris Wood, who obviously left us early this season, it'd just be an absolute nightmare scenario. And I work in Yorkshire as well, so there's just Leeds fans everywhere. So it's not. It's got the recipe to be a bad Monday or a very good Monday.
Yeah, hopefully it's a good one.
Definitely. The one thing I'll add is that actually Eddie Howe talked about today that that was one of the first questions he was asked in his presser, and he said they were trying him out in training today. So this was his first training back. He'd had a hip problem. They were trying him in training to get it today with a view to him being available on Sunday. Now, I agree 100% with what Chris has just said. I don't think he'll start, but I think he'll come on and maybe have an influence in the game. And actually, maybe my opinions on Wood will probably come in a short while when we talk tactics. But I do think he will go tooth and nail to be available for this game on Sunday for the reasons I think Adam is just alluded to. But good question from Jacob.
Yeah.
If you haven't already, Jacob, hit the subscribe. Come and watch us a little bit more Unloaded. Obviously, being in the Northeast yourself, it just makes sense. Okay, just click that subscribe. Come and join the chat. Great question already in the show tonight. Brilliant stuff.
Absolutely. This one's from Adam McCarthy, Adam, which is an interesting one actually. And Adam asks, "What does Burnley Adam?" I was calling you Burnley Adam now. What does Burnley Adam think of their takeover and how it's been financed?
I think when the takeover happened, I think a lot of the fans were fed up of the old regime. Obviously, not as much as you guys will have been with Mike Ashley, but the old owners were local businessmen who'd really looked after the club's finances for a long period of time. Obviously, been really frugal and really careful to make sure that we didn't spend beyond our means and do any detrimental damage to the club, which was brilliant for a number of years. But it was becoming more and more evident that they couldn't stretch to what we needed to be able to sustain and be successful in the Premier League. Like the year, I think two summers ago, we spent £1 million on Dale Stevens after finishing 10th. And if you stay still, you go backwards in this league. And lo and behold, we finished 17th the year after. The bank balance always looked great, but there just wasn't any money to spend. So when the new owners came in, it's a leveraged buyout. They've used the club's assets to get loans against and obviously put us into 80 million, 100 million's worth of debt. I don't think it's uncommon these days. That's how a lot of football clubs are run. And it did allow us to go and be a bit more adventurous in the transfer window last summer, bringing in Cornet, Collins, Roberts, and that are our biggest outlay ever in a transfer window. And I think after the years of underinvestment, it's only plugged obviously part of the gap, and obviously we've had another struggle this season. But I think we will become stronger if we do manage to survive. The owners have been really open and honest with the community, and they've really tried to get involved, and they've come in, improved a lot of the match day experience. They seem really want to get the fans' thoughts on board, and PR wise, it's been absolutely bang on. The big worry is if we were to get relegated and what that means. Previously, getting relegated meant we were fine. We didn't have any debt. Parachute payments would be okay. We didn't spend too much on wages. And we actually invested more when we went down the last time than we did when we were in the Premier League. And buying Andre Gray, Michael Keane, Joey Barton, obviously wages-wise, and that fired us straight back up. So yeah, the worry is we go down. There's an agreement in place. It got released a few weeks ago in the press that we'd have to pay back £65 million of the loan immediately, whereas it was supposed to be up until 2025. Because obviously, when they're giving that loan out, the best time for us to repay it if we were going to get relegated is when we've got the parachute payments to help us and a lot of sellable assets. So we go down this time. You sell Pope, you sell Cornet, you sell McNeil, and that's it. You've probably got rid of the debt, but you've lost 3 players and you've probably still not got no money to spend. So I think the worry is you go down and you just struggle to ever come back. And you've seen teams drop through the leagues quite easily. We're not like a massive club that's definitely going to bounce back. There's quite a lot of teams in our local area that I've seen us play against in the past in league games. Bury, Oldham, who were really well. Obviously, Bury gone out of the league and trying to make their way back. Oldham just been relegated to the conference. So you just can't get too far ahead of yourselves, and it would be a big worry if we were to go down. But yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, well, we keep our fingers crossed for you, Adam. Funnily enough, I'm going to bring this other question up as well, just quickly. It's from Simon Rudd, and only because you mentioned them then in the chat. If Burnley stay up, will Cornet stay?
Well, again, it's come out in the last few weeks. He's got a £17.5 million release clause if we do go down, which I think he'll get snapped up straight away for that. I'd hope he would stay, because you'd think we do need to build. The owners will want to invest, and hopefully that'll be enough to keep him at the club. I suppose it depends who comes in, but just on the other side of the argument, though, he's not been great since he came back from AFCON. Like the early part of the season, we've put him up. I think we brought him in as like a left winger. He played left back for Lyon, and I think we brought him in and just thought,
where's his
he's well. I think he's probably on the left wing, but we brought him in. We've got such limited options up front, and he's probably the best footballer in the squad by an absolute mile. So we've just gone, right, where can you have the most impact? Go and play with Chris Wood up front. And early in the season, it kind of worked. The chemistry maybe wasn't the best, but when you were firing goals in, volleys from here, there, and everywhere, it didn't really matter. Ball was dropping to him, and he was full of confidence. And yeah, I think he scored like 6 goals from 1 XG. It was mental, but you can't sustain that. And when you get he's come back from AFCON, Dyche said he's just had a month's holiday. Like he came back not fit, so he's not hit the same height since. But he's got to be in the side for us at the moment. All right, simple answer to the question. Yeah, I think he'll stay if we stay up.
Okay,
yeah, that's fair, mate. That's fair.
Sorry,
Pete, go on.
I was going to say, at this point, I think there's still some fantastic questions, but what I'd like to do at this point now is just switch it to game day a little bit. So thinking about game day from a Newcastle perspective, there's no problems with the likes of Kieran Trippier. We've got Target playing his last game. Or supposedly his last game of his loan spell at Newcastle. We'll see how that progresses. There's going to be a late call on Fabian Schär. That was what Eddie Howe said in his press conference. He'll make a late call on Fabian Schär and see what the situation is. There's been some noise about Fraser, that he might well be injured again, maybe a hamstring injury. We'll wait for further confirmation in the build-up to Sunday. Whether that's going to be the case, obviously we've got Big Joe flying high at the moment, playing well, playing some fantastic stuff at this point in time, and also we've got ASM who's coming off the back of a really strong game. So we've got players coming in, looking good, looking strong, and ready to kind of fly away and really kind of make a statement at the back end of this season. Just want to give a little bit of a shout out to this man, Miggy Almiron. I think he's come into the squad and played really, really well. The last few games that he's been given the opportunity to. Chris, I don't know whether you agree with that, whether you think he's come in and done a really good job.
Yeah, I do. I think I still think he's got a little bit to prove he's got a place next season. But Pete, yeah. My thoughts on Miguel Almiron. Like I always have that extra little bit of love for him because of the effort and the fact that you can see he really wants it. There's nothing better than seeing one of your players, busting a gut to track back in like the 92nd minute. And his work rate can never be faulted. It's just that little bit of lack of quality. Whether Eddie Howe can tease something out of him in the summer, who knows? But no, I mean, if somebody told me, Miguel Almiron's staying next season and he's going to be someone, an impact player off the bench, I'd have no problem with that. My only concern is starting week in, week out, he just doesn't produce the numbers, does he? And that's the issue. Whether or not he can turn that round, I don't know. But that's my only concern with Miguel Almiron.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And what's interesting, I'd read today, whether it's true or not, is that Ismail Assar at Watford has been given permission to talk to a couple of clubs, a couple of Premier League clubs. One's anonymous, one's thought to have been Newcastle. That's come from a journalist that is very close to Watford. Looking at potentially a deal to be done there, and actually, the journalist said there's one deal with the club, whichever club it is, that is looking like it's very close to being finalised. Whether that's to Newcastle, I don't know.
Didn't Sean say as well, Pete? And I could be wrong, but I'm sure Sean said there was a deal that was pretty much wrapped up, but it's not one that's been linked. Obviously,
Could
up
well
until
be.
today, I don't know whether
Yeah,
that's
I
what
mean,
he's heard.
Ismail Shaw's been linked with Newcastle for a while, but it has gone cold for a number of months. So it could well be the case that it's maybe
Yeah.
hotting up again. So that's a good point, Chris, definitely. But
Yeah.
one man that is in the talking point at the moment is Martin Dubravka from a Newcastle perspective. Huge links with Dean Henderson in the last 24 hours. I'm saying that he was 99% done. Sean, again, talked about it on the show on Wednesday. He's got something to prove. He's going to want to come out and get another clean sheet after a clean sheet against Arsenal at the weekend. So he's going to be trying to prove that his place is set for the team. However, as always, it's become a popular feature with regards to away days. We're going to go to the tactics board and we'll just have a look at how we think maybe the teams are going to set up at the weekend. Now, what I asked of Adam before he came on is what he thought his lineup will be, and he thought it would be maybe an unchanged lineup. So, if you can see that on the screen, guys, can everyone see that?
Not yet. Oh, there you go, Pete. Yeah, come up.
Yeah, it's on there. This is how the teams from both sides have lined up now. Adam, I'll get you to talk me through your lineup in a second, but I'll just talk from a Newcastle perspective. Chris, feel free to come in at any point. Tell me where you think maybe one or two changes might be made. It's always a similar team and a similar setup with Newcastle United. Eddie Howe's gone for kind of consistency and playing those same players, week in, week out. The one real change for me is obviously with the fact that Shelby's out. Last week, I put Bruno as this sitting midfielder here. But actually what we found for long points in the game, and actually we talked about it on the Arsenal away days, and they, in fact, Shahin alluded to it, that he thought this was how we were going to set up, is that Longstaff is that sitting midfielder, which allows Bruno to push on, and that's ultimately what happened. So I've gone with this sort of similar formation, the Brazilian duo in that attacking midfield position, Longstaff sitting in, Burns. I think Shaw will play.
Yeah, I do.
I just think last game of the season, there's a 6-day protocol. It's a hit and miss. Well, the key to it is, and I think what Eddie Howe alluded to, is that with Shaw, it's a case of the medical staff have to make clear to the Premier League whether he actually was concussed or not. If they can show that he wasn't concussed in any way, that 6-day protocol will mean that he'll be available for selection. And boy, is he going to want to be. And Eddie Howe's going to want him to be, because him and Dan Burn have been formidable as a centre-back pair.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Target in his last game, there was an issue where he kind of looked like he pulled his hamstring. I was a bit worried on Monday, but he played the rest of the game. He's going to want to play. And look, Trippier with England round the corner, I think he's going to want some minutes, and it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
With another week's worth of training, 3 weeks now worth of full training, that Trippier will get his run out last game of the season against, as Adam talked about, his old club in Burnley. We've got Longstaff in that sitting role, Joe Linton, Bruno, as I talked about, ASM coming off a really good performance against Arsenal. Miggy, who I think he deserves his place, could have gone for Fraser. Don't know what you think about that. I know there's question marks about whether he can play or not. Could have gone for Fraser. I've gone for Miggy because I think he's played really well. And the main man, our number 9, Callum Wilson, up top. Chris, would you agree with any of that? Would you change any of that? What are your thoughts?
No, do you know what? I completely agree, Pete. I think that will be the lineup, and that is the lineup I'd choose. I think Shaw will pull through, like you say, and Eddie Howe will be hoping he is, because I think that's our strongest back four as it stands. I think he'll keep Bruno where he is. And yeah, interesting, like you say, on away days. I mean, when Shelby's out, we did automatically think that Bruno would have that sitting role. But I think you do miss, because he's so box to box and he's all action and he can do everything. You kind of don't want to stifle him in that defensive role, because arguably, it's a fact, I think Bruno's got far more to his game than Sean Longstaff. So to have Sean Longstaff being told, listen, your job's to sit here in between the midfield and the defence, shore things up, break up the play, and just sit there and just put out fires, so to speak. And then I think Bruno is then given the freedom to, burst forwards, make those long busting runs into the box and cause problems, which is what we saw for the second goal. Bruno was there on hand to put the ball in the back of the net. So I agree. I think that'll be the team. The only thing you could say, and again, it's a long shot, but you could argue that maybe Eddie Howe might want to give Jacob Murphy a run out in the right wing position. It's probably unlikely because Miggy's been playing really well, but I don't know whether he just wants to take a look at him. But
would you do that, Chris? Would you, if you were given the choice, and people in the chat get your opinions in there as well. If you were given the choice, would you go with Murphy playing and starting on the right-hand side? He scored, I think, the last time we went to Burnley at Turf Moor, a very good goal as well. Or would you stick with Miggy? As well as that, do you think Miggy's played well? People in the chat as well. Do you think Miggy's had a good run in the last few games? Think he's played himself maybe into staying at the club?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Like I spoke about before, I think Miggy's probably one of those players on the cusp. I think if somebody comes in with a 15 million offer for Miggy, or maybe a swap deal, I think Eddie Howe will listen to it and the club will. But if somebody said to me now, "Oh, you're going to end up with Miggy Almiron in the 25-man squad next season," I wouldn't be upset about it in any way. I just think that we need a massive upgrade on that right wing position. Ryan Fraser, unfortunately, you can't really trust him in terms of injury. And again, I think he's one of those players who, again, it's a nice option to have off the bench. But I do think we need to upgrade that right wing position. Obviously, we've spoken about Rafinha. Adam, we're currently in like dreamland at the minute because obviously it feels like no option is impossible. So
you're playing Football Manager, aren't you?
Yeah. No, essentially we are, and we know that we need to upgrade a number of positions, and one of them is that right wing position. And as soon as you start mentioning the likes of Rafinha, we did an away days with the Man City podcast, and they were saying that they thought Mahrez might be leaving, so we were like, yeah, we'll have a bit of Mahrez if he's available. We've been linked with various wingers, to be fair, so I think, and Ismail Assar more recently today. So I think. Do you know what, Pete? I'm kind of talking myself out of it now. The two big question marks in the summer for me are Murphy and Almiron. I don't think Murphy and Almiron will be at the club next season. I don't think we keep both of them. So if I was Eddie Howe, I'd probably give Jacob Murphy a start at right wing, because to be fair to Jacob Murphy, the last couple of times he's come on as sub, and I dread the sub every time because I always think it's a bit of a pointless one, and sometimes he gets put right back. I would give him right wing, and I'd say to him, listen, last game of the season, go and enjoy yourself, go and show us what you can do, and just see what happens, kind of thing. Because with Miggy, I don't think we're gonna come the full-time whistle. We're not gonna know any more about Miggy Almiron, in my opinion, but there is more to learn possibly about Jacob Murphy, because I do feel sorry for him in the sense that I'm not his biggest fan, but I do acknowledge the fact that he's played right wing back, he's played right back, and I think to myself, and sometimes he only gets a little cameo 5, 10, 15 minutes. So it would be interesting to just give him a start and just go, well, come on, show us what you're all about. Go out there, nothing to lose. Go and enjoy the last game of the season and show that you've got a place in the squad next season. So part of me feels like just going, yeah, go on, give him a run out.
I think that's a fair point. It's interesting. I agree. It's either going to be one or the other. I don't think it'll be both, and I completely agree with you with regards to that. One will be sold, maybe depending on who's available. Maybe both are sold. We'll bring in one or two more. I think Yano in the chat has said he doesn't think that Trippier will start. He thinks that Kraft's done nothing wrong, and I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I'm purely thinking of Kieran Trippier wanting to get back into that England squad. And if he wants to get back into that England squad, he's not going to really want to wait for the start of next season. He's going to want Gareth Southgate to know that he's fit and ready to play. So playing the last game of the season and getting 90 minutes under his belt is the perfect way to say to Gareth Southgate, I'm fit, I'm 100% ready to play. Give me some minutes playing in the England games over the course of the summer. Give me that chance to get fit. I've missed the last 3 months. I think that's the only reason why he starts. It's not a knock on Kraft. Kraft has played very, very well, and he's impressed, I think, everyone at Newcastle,
he has.
and deserves to start again. And Eddie Howe alluded to the fact he was going to play strongest team, and rightly so.
Yeah.
And I just think from. And this happens with players. It might happen with Bruno coming towards the World Cup and various other players. It might even happen with Wilson, who might be pushing for the England squad. It's going to happen where they're going to look at players and think, right, they're trying to get into an international squad for the World Cup. Let's give him some minutes. So that's the only reason why I'm thinking he's going to start, not because he deserves to ahead of Kraft. Kraft is the one to beat at the moment. He's playing very, very well. So just my little thoughts on that. But I'm mindful that Adams put his team together. Interestingly, gone for a 3-5-2, which is what they started with West Ham. Against Aston Villa. Apologies. Adam, talk us through your lineup and the style of play that you like to play for Burnley.
It doesn't even look right on the pitch now. Looking at a Burnley side in a 3-5-2 formation, just been 4-4-2 for that long. It's it still doesn't sit right. But I think we carried on with the 4-4-2 for initially when Jackson came in. Played with a bit more freedom. McNeil had a bit more license. We just tried a few things, playing out like Pope were distributing the ball a lot quicker than he was doing previously. A lot of throwing the ball out to Taylor and Roberts. And against Wolves and Southampton, it still looked to be working. We still had that defensive solidity, and we had a bit more threat going forward. But then when we played Watford, obviously the first signs we didn't play very well. And I think character shone through in the end. We managed to turn it around with 2 late goals. And then the Villa game, I think we got opened up at home. This home against Villa a couple of weeks ago, 3-0 down after 50 odd minutes, and they just tore through us, and we just looked soft centered. And then Tarkowski got injured as well, so I think we were kind of forced into this for the Tottenham game, where Tarkowski wasn't fit, and we had Lawton playing in the centre with Collins and Long. And then the rest of the side was as it is now. And obviously, I think we're putting a really good performance at Tottenham. A performance, not like a real fluid footballing performance, but a performance that allows us to give us our best chance of getting something from a top side. We were solid. We had threats from set pieces and a threat on the break. And we, on another day, we should have got something from that game. Cornet missed a 1-on-1. The penalty decision were harsh. Barnes hit the post, and Pope made a couple of good saves like he always does. But it was a good away performance, and then we carried that on against Villa last night. See a lot of talking points from that game as well. Probably could have won it with Weghorst's chance at the end. Potential penalty for pretty much the same thing that Barnes got penalised against at Tottenham, but I think every team's got their own VAR things that they want to talk about, haven't they? But that's just the hypocrisy of it were shown up this last week for us. But again, we're putting a really solid performance. Again, Pope saved us again a couple of times last night. But I think with the lack of attacking options that we've got, with Vidra injured, Rodriguez injured, Gudmundsson's been out for a while. I think this is the best way for us to try and get a result against you guys, even though we haven't played this formation at home. But I just can't see us going back to a back four the way that what Villa did to us. And you've got similar threats in your attacking players that they did that day. And I think it could be a similar outcome if we were too open. So it doesn't fill you with confidence as a Burnley fan thinking our best chance of winning is defensively nicking a goal and winning 1-0. But the realistic nature of it is it's probably going to be a tight game for us to be able to win it. And the three centre-backs, all very good defenders. Pope behind him, really, really solid, four there. And Taylor and Roberts, I think for the first time this season, we've got with Roberts coming in, we've got two defenders, full backs that have the potential to play wing back. They can get up and down all day long, so we don't actually miss having Cornet, McNeil on the wings, and we can play them more central and try and make things happen that way. Brownhill and Cork will most likely sit in front. When Cork's in the team, Brownhill does have more licence, and Cork coming back into the side has played a big impact on our results. When he plays, we do get better results, and Dyche's reluctance to play him really did infuriate fans this season, because he brings the best out of other players like Brownhill. Obviously, Weghorst, it probably isn't going to start, but when Cork came into the side, we saw a lot better version of Weghorst, because we were playing it into his feet rather than playing it into the channels like we always did with Wood. We just revert to type. It took us a month or so to get used to Wood not being there, because, like I say, he's a workhorse. We could just pummel it in a channel. Weghorst didn't have a clue what to do with it. Yeah. But we have adapted a bit now. And then Cornet, as I've suggested, not on the best of form. The host of our podcast, Natalie, the other night, put in a couple of minutes before he won the penalty about Cornet's touch completely deserting him. Next thing, brings one down from the sky, turns his man inside out and wins as a penalty.
Always the way. Yeah.
And then, but the only thing with Barnes is he's not played a lot of football in the last couple of years. Obviously, he runs his socks off when he does play. I thought it was finished. I think a lot of Burnley fans did, but you can't fault him for these last couple of games. He's made a difference when he's come in and give us a real, like you alluded to before, a real fight up top. The only thing for me is, can he play 3 games in a week? With it being the last game of the season, you'd hope so. But his body has tended to let him down in the past. So the only changes potentially that could happen is if Weghorst is a lot fresher than Barnes, he could come in, or if Rodriguez is fit. But I think with the way this last couple of weeks have gone, we'll stick with what we've done well. So that's what I think.
Barnes is a tough cookie. I saw that. The potential elbow against.
He was lucky to get away with that. I couldn't believe he'd done that. Like, I'm talking about VAR decisions going against us last night, but that was right at the start of the game, and we'd struggled to get anything from that game with 10 men for.
It looks suspicious. I've got to be honest. The way he went in looked like it was intentional in my eyes, because I just look at the way in which Barnes plays. He is very much like that. He plays off the cuff.
Well, Mings has stamped on a couple of people's heads before and got
he has. You're right. He's not innocent in it whatsoever.
No, two wrongs don't make a right. One thing I will say, sorry, just before we move on, Alan Saint-Maximin normally beats us on his own. So, like looking at your team there's so many threats. Normally, I'm just looking at ASM and thinking, well, we're done. He came on as a sub last year and literally just turned the game around. It was 60 minutes in. I think he was coming back from an injury. We were 1-0 up comfortable, and I think he were in, like you mentioned, Jacob Murphy. But Sam actually, he scored one, set one up, and we looked scared of him. I don't know if it'll be different now. I don't think he had as bigger impact earlier this season against us, but he's a real thorn in our side, and especially last season, both games, he tore us to shreds, and just the sight of him scares the hell out of me. And I know he's taken a lot of stick recently, but he's got a number on us.
He loves to make this run and cut it inside. You may have watched the game on Monday, but he had Tamiyasu on absolute
toast. Yeah,
he really did. He absolutely destroyed him down the side. What I liked about ASM, and Chris, please come in with your thoughts on this, is that this is what I kind of I'm a unloaded mag NUFC. I'm a protector of ASM, should we say?
You are.
Is that I like to see the positive in him when others maybe don't. And it's quite easy to not see the positives in him. It's quite easy to see the frustrations. But what I loved about ASM is that he mixed up his game. He kept Tamiyasu questioning what he was going to do. So there was times that he went down his left and cut in and tried to get balls in the box. There was times that he cut in on his right and tried to get shots in, made Ramsdale work really well. But he kept that right back guessing all the time. He didn't know whether he was going to cut in, so he didn't know whether to step in. He didn't know whether to step out because he didn't know whether he was going to go this way or this way. And the third dimension of ASM is even if he went one way or the other, if it wasn't working, he did the simple thing. He just released the ball. So he released the ball to Joe Linton. He released the ball to Wilson. He released the ball back to Target. And you know what? He just went, found his position and started again. And it just made the game look so simple for ASM that he hasn't done before. And I go back to the point that I mentioned on the Sean Casey show. It's the reason that now we've got Callum Wilson making those runs in and behind, stretching defenders, making them think, you know, arriving in the box, being that constant threat. You got Bruno pushing on. You had Joe Linton making runs in and around him, inside, you know, causing problems in and around this area here. You got Longstaff getting the ball from deep. That was spraying the balls out wide to Miggy and ASM. And we just had threats all over the pitch. And that is the key to ASM, is that he cannot be the main man that everyone hangs their hat on. There has to be other options out there that takes it out of the way. Now, if that's the case, with Roberts, I think that's going to be an interesting situation. You know, if Roberts is trying to get himself forward on Target has proven against the likes of Leicester and other teams that he can handle that player trying to run and make the run forward. But if Target wins the ball and he's playing it into ASM here, as well as Collins has played and Collins has played well, Chris is absolutely right. It's a problem. And this is what Roberts is going to need to be aware of. The same here is exactly the same with Miggy Almiron. And if we are playing Trippier is even more deadly on the ball than Kraft is. And that Miggy loves to make this run in here. And I said it on away days for the Arsenal game. He loves to make that run in there. And what we found is that Shaw was coming in, particularly in the first half, and just whipping that ball into that area because he's good enough on the ball to do so. And he was just stretching the team, making them think. So he was pulling out centre-backs into this area. He was getting above and beyond the full-backs because he's got the pace to do so. And he's rapid. But he's also got a player on the board here, Fabian Shaw, and I hope he plays, that he's got this ball to play inside here. And it just creates havoc and it allows Wilson to get movement on the centre-back. This is going to be an interesting situation, particularly if they're potentially going to be teammates. And they have been, I think, England teammates as well. And that's going to be an interesting situation because Tarkowski is a good defender. It'll be interesting to see how Wilson gets on there. And maybe Gareth Southgate will be watching that to see how he gets on from both perspectives. From a defensive point of view, let's face it, Maguire's not been playing well. Stones is injured. There are options there for the summer for another centre-back to come in. He'll be looking at Tarkowski, but also looking at the fact that Dominic Calvert-Lewin's had a horrible end to the season, although he scored last night. Is Wilson going to be the man that comes into the England squad? So it's something to be wary about. However, I do think the battle of the game on Sunday will be won in this area here. And it's set up 3-for-3. So you've got Dwight McNeil. It's also almost playing as although he tends to be a wide man, you've got him set up as a kind of midfield three. You've got Cork in the middle here and Josh Brownhill who's in here. But they're coming up against the midfield that are the press kings, in my opinion. And Chris, you might agree with me on that one, is that they know how to press hard. Joe Linton's all action. You've got Longstaff will be able to get on the ball here. That's where I think the game will be won in this situation, in my opinion. Chris, what are your thoughts on that?
I was just going to say, just to touch on what you were talking about earlier, Pete, I think my only concern for Burnley, and Adam, you may disagree with this, but my only concern for Burnley is when you were talking, Pete, about ASM and Miggy, in those attacking positions, when you play with five at the back, you've got your wing backs, which is great. But as soon as those wing backs, if they get caught out or they lose the ball high up the pitch, you've then got a problem where that gap is by Collins. That's the problem. Collins gets pulled out, which then means you're leaving Wilson one-on-one with Tarkowski.
But
then you've got your runners. You've got your Joe Linton coming in. You've got your Bruno coming in on the other side. It's sorry if this is causing you nightmares, Adam, but it's it's a difficult one. But I think Pete's right. In the middle of the park, particularly with that midfield three. The issue for me, if I was a Burnley fan, would be it's that midfield's got legs for Newcastle. You've got Sean Longstaff, who gets about the pitch. He's not. Sometimes he does lack that bit of quality. Sometimes he does, misplace passes, which is very frustrating. But he can get about the pitch. I'm not saying he's the quickest, but he does put the miles in, if you like. And then obviously you've got Joe Linton, who doesn't stop running. Very, very, very good on the ball. Very rarely loses possession. And then you've got Bruno, who's just technically brilliant. He's it's very, very rare that you see Bruno lose the ball. So I do think, Josh Brownhill, Jack Cork, and Dwight McNeil, they're probably in for a rough afternoon, especially if they choose to play Dwight McNeil left centre mid. Now I know you mentioned Adam, that's a position he's taken up recently, but he's coming up against a great technician in Bruno Gomes, so it's going to be an interesting battle, very, very interesting battle, because I do, like Pete said, I think, like Arsenal, Bruno will play in that more advanced of the three in the midfield. And if Bruno consistently keeps, getting past Dwight McNeil and Jack Cork in the centre there, he's going to be constantly looking for that through ball for Callum Wilson. And Callum Wilson's going to be playing on the last man, which chances are is going to be Tarkowski, Long or Collins. And he's just going to be looking for gaps. And ASM's going to be trying to occupy Collins, and Miggy's going to be trying to occupy Long.
If you look at where the goal came, the first goal, well, it was their own goal, but it looked like obviously at the time Wilson had scored. ASM gets the ball deep here, which we don't normally see him. We always see him up here. He got the ball deep here. He pulled out the wing back or the fullback in Cedric at that time, and Joe Linton exploited the play. Played it into here. Yeah. Wilson being Wilson, and his movement is top notch. Played it in here. The ball gets played in, and ends up being a goal in this situation. From Wilson making that run into that area here, and I can see that happening again as the game goes on. With our ability to stretch the play, that could be difficult. The only thing that I'll say is the one thing that we're not going to be used to coming up against, and Adam, I love your opinion on this, is that the one thing I watched against Aston Villa that they really struggled with is the fact that they had two up top.
Yeah.
We don't see that very often in Premier League football now. It's always normally the one man and the two behind, and it's kind of the normal style formation. But this is where Shaw and Burn are going to have to be on their toes. And whoever plays fullback, whether it's Trippier and Target, are going to need to be aware of this, because for the first time in a long time, these two are going to be occupied by one player each.
Yeah.
Not having to worry about dealing with one player. And, Ashley Barnes can be a menace in himself. But with Cornet making those runs in and behind him, whether it's to the left or the right, being that second striker with McNeil, I imagine McNeil will spend some time, if Cornet is occupying Shaw here, McNeil trying to occupy this space here or in and around the fullback here. Something we're going to be interesting to look at. He is looking more dangerous since Mike Jackson took over the role of the club. That for me is where I think Burnley could really sort of hurt Newcastle United. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Adam.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's a rarity these days to have two up top, and you can see it does cause teams problems. It gives us the option to go direct as well if we are losing that midfield battle, to relieve the pressure and try and get up the pitch. McNeil will be in like a free role in front of Brownhill and Cork. He's looked all right the last couple, but it does worry me, like you say, with the energy that you've got in that midfield. When we had a midfield two of Brownhill and Westwood for the majority of the season, we did get overrun a lot in that area. Obviously, having that extra player in there probably helps a bit, but McNeil doesn't track that well. He seems to he just treads water going backwards, and there's been a few times this season where you've looked at goals and thought, what are you doing? Like you've just lost track of your man there straight away, and him being in the middle of the pitch probably exposes us even more to that. But yeah, I think my big hope is that obviously you've not pulled up any trees away from home since all season really. I know you smashed Norwich, but we're the only team who can't smash Norwich. So and like the Everton result, I'm still angry with you all for that. That was the first time I wanted Newcastle to win for like 4 months, and in 99th minute against 10 men, I was furious.
Oh, mate, me and Pete were at the game. And it was. Oh, sorry, Pete, you're on mute, mate.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say we were both there, so we feel your pain 110%.
Well, you just about got out of it. I'm thinking, yeah, Newcastle are gone, but at least they're on form, so they'll beat Everton, who look like they're coming towards us. And then, I just think, that were horrible. But you've not pulled up trees away from home, and it is our cup final. If we can't perform on this day, the crowd's going to be up for it. It's the biggest game we've had since we've been back in the Premier League. So we've got to perform. We've got to make it about us. And show, like I said, we're going to be defensive, and I think we are going to line up defensively solid, but we've got to show intent when we're going forward and get it up to Corney and Barnes and see if we can cause you problems. You talk complete sense, and my brain is telling me you could really do some damage, but just got something inside me saying this is it though. We've always had really, really good heart and perform when it really mattered. So I'm just hoping this is another one of those occasions.
You've had some fantastic
that team's a lot better than you've had previously coming to Turf Moor, and you've had your fair share of okay results as well.
Yeah, I think it's down to Eddie Howe as well, Adam. You know, like it's the tactical players. You probably heard me and Pete talk about. You know, under Bruce, it was like if we were talking about Bruce now, we'd just say, oh yeah, we're probably gonna 4-3-3, and we wouldn't even do a tactics pause because we know that Bruce hasn't done a tactics pause, because it would just be ASM, you do what you want. Sean Longstaff just hold there. Joe, just stay in the middle, try and break up the play. You could literally picture what it would be like. Whereas under Eddie Howe, you know that he's studying the opposition. You know that he's trying to find weaknesses and flaws and stuff like that. So that does give us quite a bit of confidence now going into matches, because you can see all the intricate changes that he makes each match. And I do think next season we're just going to go even better.
So I know this is you presenting and everything, but how long do you think? Like when you first got him, did you think it were a long-term appointment? It very much struck me as Mark Hughes at Man City. Yeah, he'll do a good job for a time, and then there will be time to move on. Do you think there is a genuine feeling that it could stay for 3, 4, 5 years, or do you think it is still the building job and then it will progress naturally? Because you can't really fault much that he's done at all so far, can you? But I think that the proof will be in the pudding, won't it? But I just wondered your thoughts on that.
Well, I'm going to start, Adam, because I'm going to let Pete have the final say on this. Because to be fair, Pete was one of Eddie Howe's biggest advocates. I was a doubter. I was the person like yourself. I was thinking, yeah, he'll come in, hopefully keep us up. He may stay the next season. They may give him a shot. But the way that he's come in and the way that he's turned this team around, it's not just the team, but the fans, the city, everything. He's changed everything within the club, with the help of the new owners. Don't get me wrong, but everything about him is just class. His interviews are class. The way he speaks to the press, the way he engages with the fans, everything about him. We can't say a bad word about him, honestly. Like this is probably up there at the minute, the way we feel about Eddie Howe with the likes of Keegan and Sir Bobby Dobson. And I don't say that lightly. I'm not for 1 minute comparing him yet, but in terms of how we feel about him and how he's coping with the situation of being the manager, and the impact he's had, he's up there. He really is. And me now, I'm looking at it and thinking, there's rumours of a new contract, and I'm like, yeah, where does he sign? Get it done. But what about you, Pete?
Look, you've already alluded to it. I talked about Eddie Howe over a year ago, back midway through last season, and I said he's the next manager to take us forward, because tactically, he's a young, hungry, up-and-coming coach. Although he's managed for 10 years, he's still young and up-and-coming in terms of being known properly in the Premier League. And I felt like he had the credentials to really do something with Newcastle, and he's proven me absolutely right. I put a few videos out that had been shared a while back from Bournemouth fans about, his, the way in which he was on the mic in pre-season training and his ability to kind of motivate players, coach players at a high level, and he's come in and done exactly that, and he's not surprised me at all, because I saw the credentials of his management ability. I don't think anyone could have seen the job that he did as such, as a sort of a manager for a team that are ultimately known as the richest club in the world. There was always going to be that question mark, but the fact that he's come in and he's basically, and we've talked about it before, Chris, he's basically come in and produced Champions League form at the back end of this season in order to get us to where he is. Like, there is no other manager in the history of the Premier League that's done that at the position that we were. That's just my opinion. And I think he's proven a lot of people wrong. Does he deserve another extended contract? Definitely. I think he deserves it, because I think he's done more than what anybody, even the owners, expected him to do this season. And I think the players have literally eaten out the palm of his hand. I think they are fully invested now in what Eddie Howe is trying to do for Newcastle United. And the key for it is, and I talked about this in the Sean Casey show, again, keep saying about it, go watch it. It's a fantastic show, getting a hell of a lot of traction, which we talked about earlier on. And I talked about, from Eddie Howe point of view, is that Eddie Howe now, the key for him is being able to prove that he can manage top level players. He's already proved it with Bruno. He's got Bruno integrated into the team and playing at a high level. Bruno's a Champions League player. There's no doubt about it. We are very lucky to have him in our current state. We're linked with the likes of his best friend Lucas Paqueta. We're linked with various other players that are Champions League level quality that could be playing for any other team in Europe, but are heavily linked with us. His biggest task next year is not to produce Champions League form for the whole season, because that would be kind of unrealistic. Is to prove that he can be consistent over the season. Only consistent over the season, because if he's consistent over the season, that's enough to propel us up the top end of the table to be top 10 at least. But the key to that is the players that he brings in of that stature, of that quality that sort of Newcastle and everyone else is expecting, is, can he manage them? Can he manage those players? Can he get the best out of them? Can he get them, eating out of the palm of his hand, like the likes of Trippier and Dan Burn and Joe Linton, Fabian Schär are already doing? That's the key to him. And I think if he can do that, I think he'll be a Newcastle United manager for a hell of a long time. And I mentioned it on another podcast, friends of the channel True Faith, with Alex Hurst and Charlotte Robson. I mentioned when I spoke to them that actually it would be an absolute pleasure to have an English manager take Newcastle United forward, not just into the top half of the table, but playing European football, hell, even Champions League football, and eventually in years to come, maybe even win a trophy. There'd be no better feeling for any Newcastle United fan for Eddie Howe to go as an English manager and go and create that type of history. When was the last time we had an English manager that took a team into the Champions League? When was the last English manager we had that went and won the title, or won a trophy, or won something at the top end of English football? It would be an absolute pleasure to see Eddie Howe do that for Newcastle United. And that's my biggest kind of hold on to with him in charge. So, yeah, as I say, that's kind of my opinion on that. And obviously, we've talked lots of tactics. At this stage now, we would normally welcome in Keith, our 00 Stato. Unfortunately, he's not able to make it tonight. There is a certain function with Malcolm McDonald, ex-Newcastle United striker, happening in Newcastle that he'd already got sort of tickets for to attend. So he sends his deepest apologies. He's gutted to miss the last away days. However, he has, as always, he does it every week. He sends me the stats that are available for Newcastle United against Burnley. So, as he said, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make the Loaded Away Day show. However, he's got some stats here for us. So, number one, Newcastle United Premier League record in this fixture: played 11, won 5, drew 4, lost 1. Lost 2. So not too bad in this fixture. Only lost 2, won 5. We've had a lot worse over this season, Chris.
With other fans, yeah, bloody hell.
We'll take that all day long.
Yeah.
All-time Premier League record or all-time record. Played 121, won 46, drew 21, lost 44. That's the all-time record for Newcastle United. So again, not bad at all. We've got Newcastle's Premier League record at Turf Moor. Played 5, won 2, drew 1, lost 2. Okay, so yeah, played 5, won 2, drew 1, lost 2. So again, not too bad, not the worst in the world for that. Number 4, if Newcastle win away to Burnley on Sunday, it will be the first time they've ever won 2 games in a row at Turf Moor. So interesting stat there. Eddie Howe's managerial record versus Burnley is managed 11 games, won 3, drew 2, lost 6. Not the best record for Eddie Howe versus Burnley in that position. And we got a little smile there from Adam, so there's a little bit of hope coming through from that stat in particular.
Dyche tended to have his number a bit, but yeah, he's gone now as well, hasn't he? So we'll see.
Yeah, it's all brand new, definitely. And number 6, Newcastle's top goal scorers in this fixture are Callum Wilson with 3 goals and Alan St-Maximin with 2 goals. I think we can all remember that fantastic goal Alan St-Maximin scored last season. Coming on as a sub, a fantastic solo goal that he scored that ended up, being the match winner. And fingers crossed, hopefully would happen again. I've just seen that from a friend of the channel, Stu Penman. Howard Wilkinson, last English manager to win the top flight in England.
Yeah,
a long time ago. If you've got the year, Stu Penman, whack it on there. Not sure what the year was, but clearly it's a long time ago that happened. That an English manager won the top division. Another stat: Max Cornet, 8 goals, and Jay Rodriguez 7 goals are Burnley's top scorers this season. Clearly more than Newcastle. We've got Callum Wilson, that I think is on 6 at this moment in time. Nick Pope has 9 clean sheets compared to Martin Dubravka's 8 clean sheets. Very close. All of Newcastle's 12 Premier League wins this season have been when Dubravka has played. Very, very interesting. So I think that says more about his standing goalkeepers than Martin Dubravka in himself, I have to be honest. Ben White's own goal on Monday ended a run of 714 minutes without a goal for Newcastle in all competitions against Arsenal. We knew there were goal scoring issues against Arsenal, so it was great to see us score a couple. Number 10, Newcastle's win at home to Arsenal meant Newcastle had won their final home league game in 7 of their last 9 seasons. The only time they've lost their final home game of the season was against Liverpool. And I remember that one. That was a fantastic game. Divock Origi scored that last-minute goal.
That was the dodgy foul, wasn't it, on Fabinho, which never was. Yeah, remember that.
Rafa's last season at the club. Still gutted about that one. We should have at least took a point that game. Premier League title challenger stats: Liverpool have not lost a Premier League game to Wolves at Anfield since 2011. They lost 1-0. They've also played Wolves. I think I've gone beyond that point. I think I've scrolled up actually. My bad. I've gone beyond that point. Chris Wood. Chris Wood has scored 6 goals in 8 games against Norwich. What is going on? No, that's the wrong stat. I apologise. My my Twitter's going absolutely mad right now and keeps jumping. So let me just go back to this point. Hold on 1 second. My Twitter's playing up like absolute mad. While I wait for the stats, my Twitter just keeps jumping. So
Stu Penman, by the way, came back, Pete, about the question. He said it was the last season before the Premier League when Howard Wilkinson won the league.
Will it be 92?
Interesting.
1992, I think.
Very, very interesting. I don't know what's happened. But some of these stats are all over the place. So therefore, I think that's about it with regards to stats. My Twitter is playing up, and I don't want to spend any more time on the stats. But I would say that the stats are quite even with regards to that. Newcastle have benefited in some areas. Eddie Howe's not had a great record against Burnley. I imagine that there's some Chris Wood stats in there because he scored a couple of goals against Newcastle in his time. So whether he can replicate that against Burnley, I think we'll wait and see. It'll be a very interesting one. Yeah, you know what, Yano, I agree. This is why he's the main man. He's the 00 Stato. And I've got to be honest, I blame Twitter. Look, even now, I'm looking at my phone and it's jumping. It's jumping from stat to stat. It's going back to Brentford, then to Wolves. It's all over the place. And I don't want to get things wrong. So come back, Pete. Please, next season, come back and bring us the stats, because this is why he's the main man. And as the Arsenal guy said last week, Dan Potts, Keith's level of stats is on another level. And I cannot replicate. We'll leave it there with regards to stats. Let's have a couple of questions before we get to predictions towards the end of the show. I know there's a few questions in there for Adam.
Yeah, there's a couple of Newcastle-based ones, but I may not come to those because obviously, we've got some very, very, very big Newcastle shows coming up, and I don't want Adam to be sitting there having to go for any more Newcastle talk. He doesn't need this. Adam needs to hear stats.
It's taking my mind off it. No, it's all good. I don't want to talk about Burnley anymore.
Right. Okay. So, this is an interesting one from Brewy. Question for Adam: if Burnley went down, would you consider buying Dwight Gale for the Championship?
Ooh, good question.
How old is he now?
31.
Yeah, about 31.
Patea, why not? He's proven at that level over and over again, hasn't he? But hopefully won't come to that. I'll think about that next week. But why not? It's he's never really done it in the Premier League, but Championship he's scored a lot of goals. So is he out of contract or?
No, he's not. But we're actively looking to get it. So I think I think personally anywhere between 5 and 10 million to get him. And I don't think it'd be anywhere near 10 million to be fair. So it's probably more like 5 and 7 million, something like that.
Even Steve Bruce don't like him though, does he? So
no.
He don't like anybody.
He doesn't.
I've got to put on Simon. He definitely will want a pay rise now. I've had an absolute mare with those stats. There's no doubt about it. And yes, I was in my mind calling it twatter. There was no doubt about that during the Team for Live. It's still jumping now. I don't know what's going on, but it's playing up big time. And I've given up with the stats anyway. But Chris, any more questions in the chat?
Yeah, mate. So Alan Thompson asks, Adam, what do you honestly think of Eddie Howe after a short stay at Burnley?
I think I was really happy when we brought him in because we'd had Brian Laws before that coming out of the Premier League. Obviously, done great things at Bournemouth, and I think every Burnley fan were really excited that we'd been the team that had managed to prize him from Bournemouth. And he brought in some brilliant players. He came halfway through a season. Looked like we were going to make a push to the playoffs and then just dropped off. Consistency weren't there, but signed Charlie Austin, Danny Ings, Sam Vokes, Kieran Trippier, Ben Mee, Junior Stanislas. He brought in a lot of players that even when he left after 18 months were a big part of Burnley for a good few years. I think he tried, obviously, bringing a more attacking style. We were trying to play out from the back. I think the problem was it didn't really solve any issues at the back. We were scoring loads of goals with Austin. He brought the best out of Jay Rodriguez before we sold him. Like, he really was. I know you're saying these days he's not the same. He's had his injuries and obviously he's in his 30s now. But when he were in his early 20s, he was a real prospect. And when he scored 20, 25 goals in the full season that Eddie Howe were in charge. And you could see he was playing full of confidence, and he did his career the world of good. Went to Southampton and did very well. We're going to get in the Euro squad 2012, I think it was, and then got a really bad cruciate injury at Man City playing for Southampton. But it didn't really get the balance of the team right. And I think it got more difficult for him as our parachute payments went downhill. We didn't really invest in his second season. And then he had issues in his private life. I think his mum were ill, and the chance to go back to Bournemouth came up, and he took it. I don't think anyone at Burnley had a bad thing to really say about him, but they were pretty non-eventful time in terms of results. They were mid-table, were about all we managed to do. But like I said, the players that he signed, he could spot a player and he could bring on a player and make them like bring the best out of them. He's brought in the core of the squad that got us promoted the next 2 times to the Premier League. So it's probably seen as a small part in Burnley's most recent history, but he definitely did have an impact. Just a shame the circumstances around it.
Yeah, no, very, very honest answer, mate. Very honest answer. Leon S asks, there were rumours that the squad was okay, if not happy, with the fact that Dyche was let go. Do you think there's anything to that? And obviously, results seem to indicate that yes, that was the case. Would you agree with that, Adam?
Yeah, quite possibly. I think Dyche has done an interview this week and kind of said that him and his coaching staff felt that the team had lost its edge. And he said it's just natural sometimes that he said if they actually thought a third of the players were unhappy with what they were doing, a third, like when he was saying he was going, a third of them were happy that he was going, a third were a bit like in the middle. Why is he going now? Why have they sacked him now? And a third were like, oh my God, what's going on? Like why is this guy who's done so much for me leaving the club? So I think there is definitely something in that. I think it's probably more likely that there were either a fallout between him and the chairman, or some of the players have gone above his head and said that there are issues in the dressing room. But yeah, the players seem to be playing with a lot more of a smile on the face since. You do see that happen, but I think it's probably a short-term fix. You see like manager bounces, don't you? And then longer term, I think you'd probably slowly see the organisation and every stamp on the club ebb away, and it's going to be a really difficult job for whoever comes in. But yeah, I think there is something in that, and Dyche didn't really hide away from that in the interview he did this week.
Yeah,
I didn't see the results upturning like they did either.
No. To be fair, mate, I don't think anyone did. And then the last one we've got, Adam, is Geordie Toon for Life says, do you think, I think he means Loughton, do you think the Loughton tackle against Villa was a red card? I thought it was a bit harsh, and I've got to say, I completely agree as well. I did think it was a bit harsh. I mean, from what I saw, he goes in for the tackle and gets the ball, and obviously his foot does obviously make contact with the player, but it didn't look malicious. And also, you know, where else could he put his foot? And it wasn't proper studs up. It was kind of like pointed. And I thought it was harsh, but what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I didn't think it was a red card either. I thought it were going to get overturned at the time. The problem he's got is it's one of them where he's just took a bit of a heavy touch and he's stretching for it. So you do see a lot of players when they're trying to retrieve a bad touch that they do lunge in, and he did lunge in, but it were very low, studs down, caught him very low down, and then his body kind of takes him upwards, and his leg goes up in the air, which probably makes it look worse, but he doesn't make any contact after his his initial low foul. So we've actually talked. Jackson's mentioned it in his press conference today that they're in the process of appealing it. So see where that goes. But no, I didn't think it was a red card. If they're very harsh. If you can't tackle like that, then you may as well stop.
Yeah.
But I've got my claret glasses on. I don't hide away from that. But I didn't think it was a red card at all. No.
I thought it was harsh. I think you guys have already alluded to it. That he's not gone in to intentionally hurt the player. He's not.
He's won the ball.
It's momentum that's took him through. That's ended up connecting with the player because he's gone in. He has overstretched, but he's gone in. With his momentum, and it's the momentum that's clattered into the player, which is causing the injury. And it's the fact that, his foot is planted, which when a player's foot is planted, when you're watching it back, it's always dangerous. There's always leg breaking potential or ankle breaking potential when the foot is planted into the ground. So that's maybe the reason why it wasn't overturned. But it was harsh. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it whatsoever.
Ryan Edwards seems to think he's realised what the problem is with your phone, mate.
Oh my God! No pop-ups here. Just Twitter playing up. Actually, you know what? I've just gone back to it now. It stopped going mad. And what Keith had actually done, it actually changed tacks. We'd gone from Newcastle tactics to Premier League title challenger stats, just as an addition of the stats. I'd not seen the fact that he'd gone from Premier League title challenger. I thought he'd gone to Liverpool stats from Liverpool 2.5 weeks ago. So therefore, I panicked and was like, these are not related to Burnley at all. Clicked off them, scrolled up and down, and that's when it all went mad. So I was actually on the right track. I'd just not seen that the title said something different. So great stats as well. Poorly presented by me. And as Brian has said, thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. I am officially 100% shit at stats. This is why we have Keith on the show, because he's the main man. He's 00 Stato, and he knows his stuff. It's as simple as that. Just before I get the last predictions, before we end the show, massive thanks to our sponsors. So we've got Black and White Army that are supporting with all of their fantastic gear that goes to a good cause, the Newcastle United NUFC Food Bank. We also have Shy Burns, massive sponsor for Loaded HQ. Simon in the chat, thank you as always for your continued support. Never fails to attend a show in the chat and always asks fantastic questions. This is where you can see him. www.shyburns.com. Get involved for some fantastic gear from Shy Burns. Don't be afraid to get involved in that over the summer. And finally, Pins and Prints. There is always some fantastic pins and prints. I've only got a snapshot here of some of the pins and prints available. There are a hell of a lot more. We present a lot more on our Loaded Mag shows and our specials, but there are a lot more. Go and check out Pins and Prints. They are the ones that are, they're on the rise. More and more Pins and Prints are coming out daily, weekly, monthly. Keep abreast of all of that is going on.
Pete, just before we jump on, there was a question here, and I'm sorry I missed it. It was from Chantal Keane. She said, what do you think about the game not being on TV, but others are like Leeds? And the reason I wanted to touch on this is my understanding was, and I could be completely wrong saying this, I always thought the last game of the season, all the teams played at the same time. Now, Chantal, Pete and Adam may correct me here, but I thought Sky Sports or maybe it's not Sky Sports News, maybe it's Sky Sports Football or whatever. They tend to let you pick which match you want to watch. And I could be completely wrong. Maybe that's not the case. But I always thought that was the case. Or there was a particular dedicated channel where they keep skipping to all the games to keep you updated of what's going on. Is that right?
I don't think so. But I think this might be wrong as well. I'm not saying this 100%. Right, I think they've only got the rights for 3 games, so they can only choose 3. And obviously they're going to choose City and Liverpool because that's where the title's going. And hopefully, Sky Sports think Leeds are going to go down, so that's why they've chosen Leeds.
Oh God, yeah, you're right. They've only got 3. They've got Brentford, Leeds, Liverpool, Wolves, City, Villa, according to this. But you'd like to think they keep you updated.
What about BT
Yeah.
Sport? Has BT Sport got any?
I don't think they're allowed to share them, are they?
Don't know. Oh,
That's crazy. The fact that that's happened, but it just goes back to the point.
Yeah, not on BT.
Yeah, a few people have said it goes back to the point. It's madness that on a Sunday, last game of the season, that all of the games are not available. It's not a Saturday 3:00. There's no reason why there shouldn't be. So I just think it's absolutely ridiculous. And yes, I am fired from stats. I refuse. Next time, I'm going to pass them on to Chris if Keith is not here.
I'm no better. I'm just laughing.
But if you're not here and Keith's not here, then I ain't doing them. It's as simple as that. I promise not doing it again. That is it. But look, we are coming towards the end. So, of course, we always ask for our predictions. So I'll go around the houses. Chris, I will start with you. As of 6, 7 o'clock Sunday night, what do you think the score will be? And what do you think the situation will be with Burnley by the end of it?
So, Adam, you probably won't like this, but I think Newcastle will win. I think personally, I'm going to go for Stu Penman, especially because I've seen Stu Penman in the chat. Stu Penman, by the way, Adam, always predicts Newcastle to win 3-1. And I think 3-1 would probably be a good shout. However, I do believe Brentford will beat Leeds, so I think it will be irrelevant anyway. So that's what I'm saying. 3-1 Newcastle.
I know. I love it.
Keep everyone happy. You know what I mean?
Definitely, yeah, without a doubt. Adam, what's your prediction for Sunday?
Well, I'd settle for that now, no matter how painful it'd be during the day, during the game. But I just say it's our. I've alluded to it before. It's our cup final. We've got to perform and really show. Which we've got to make it about us, and I think we'll do it. 1-0 Tarkowski header, leave on a high.
Well.
Interesting. You just sort of spanner in the works there, because there was all that talk of maybe Chris Wood scoring the goal that takes you guys down, and I've got a sneaky feeling he's going to score. If he plays on Sunday, I've got a sneaky feeling he's going to score. But I'm going to go. Oh yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 Newcastle. I'm going to go 2-1 Newcastle. I think Callum Wilson scores. I think Chris Wood scores. Who scores the first and second goal? I don't know. But I just think that Newcastle United will win. We're really, a lot of people have said we're not interested. We're on the beach. The season's done for us.
Nah, we're not like that anymore.
Chance of finishing in the top 10.
We're not like that anymore.
If anybody hasn't listened to the preview, I've retweeted it. No, they never have put their predictions out and their preview out tonight. And I was lucky enough to have my little say on that. And I said exactly that, in that actually, we're still fighting for top 10 and there's still a chance. So we're going to go out all guns blazing. And Eddie Howe alluded to that. So I think 2-1 Newcastle. The pressure of winning the game might get a little bit too much for Burnley, and we might take advantage of that. And yeah, it's going to be a very, very interesting one. That is for sure. Just before we wrap up, if anybody in the chat tonight and those watching back the show at a later date haven't yet clicked the subscribe button, please hit the subscribe button. As you will be aware, we went to our 3,000 subs. So thank you for all of your support, and we are well on the way to moving on to our next target, which is 5K, 4K in the middle, of course, but that's the one we're looking to head towards next. So please click that subscribe button, show your support for the channel, and it'll be able to let you know when other shows are coming available. As well as that, you can join the membership, the Loaded family. Click that blue button that you can see on the screen, $1.99 a month to become a member, and you'll be part of the prize draw, which our sponsors give out on a monthly basis. And I think we're due
We are due one. We are
another sponsorship round, so Daz can get the big wheel out, and there'll be a number of new winners of our membership draw. That's for sure. We'll be back coupling up and teaming up with Paul from Toon Review for the Loaded Mag NUFC Toon Review. Coming next week, we will be back looking at some more details with that. As you can see, Paul's fantastic mock-up of his boys is an absolute delight. And next week is going to be a cracker. We've got the price of football with Kieran Maguire and our very own Geordie dentist, Neil Mitchell. Will be coming and joining and tagging together to talk all things NUFC finance, and obviously maybe talking a little bit of Chelsea, maybe talking a little bit of Everton and their finances. Lots to discuss, lots of questions in the chat. Do not miss that one as well. And after the game, we'll be back for a loaded reaction. Fingers crossed I'll be able to make that reaction, because I should, fingers crossed, be attending the game on Sunday. So hopefully I can get back in time for the reaction, but fingers crossed on that.
I was keeping a lookout for a ticket, but couldn't get one.
Very, very difficult. I've had to scratch and claw to get it, but still not even guaranteed, but we'll see. But lads, that's it. Season done. Away days season done. Massive thanks to every single club, podcast, supporter of Away Days. It was just an idea that we plucked out of the air a year ago today, and all of a sudden we have created the Away Days show, which has been a huge success across Loaded and across social media with regards to its interest. We will be back next season for a lot more. Chris, I wouldn't have been able to do it without you, my man. Thank you very much for your support over the course of the season.
Pleasure, mate. Absolute pleasure. And great hosting, Pete. Great hosting. Great show. And really looking forward to next season.
Definitely, 100%. And obviously he's not here tonight, but Keith knows we speak on a weekly basis. We won't be able to do it without him. 00 Stato, as you can clearly tell tonight.
Pete, it just feels right. And I feel like Adam needs to see it as well. Should we close the show out with the 00 Stato music? Do you think?
Let's do it. Let's do it. So we will close out the show with the 00 Stato. Why not? It's a great way to end the show. But everyone in the chat, everyone that supported and been a part of the channel, in the chat, asking fantastic questions to all of our podders. We really appreciate it. You guys are what make this show. And we are so looking forward, myself and Chris and Keith, to come back and give you a lot more of Premier League talk and previews up to next season. So until then, you guys take care. Have a great Friday evening, and we do love playing away. Let's see you out with 00 Stato. Take care.